Welcome to the Big Book Workshop, Big Book Experience. This is all about experience in it. The Big Book was written to transfer an experience from one person to another person. It's about transferring an experience. It's about you experiencing this book, making it come alive. I'm going to start this off with a set-aside prayer. But first, a moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic. It might be somebody we know in the rooms suffering, and it might be somebody we know that's out on the street. Let's take a moment and think about that person. Okay, the set-aside prayer. God, please help me set aside everything I think I know about myself. Help me to set aside everything I think I know about myself. It doesn't say forget it. It says put it off to the side. Help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, about the 12 steps, about the big book, about the meetings, my disease, and you, God. And I also put in there other spiritual conceptions because that helps me to have an open mind. So I may have an open mind in a new experience with all these things. Please help me see my truth. Amen. I hope that, we've been going through this workshop here, and I hope that I've had the opportunity to take this magnifying glass out and put it in front of, some of your all eyes, so you can see what you couldn't see before. My job as a sponsor is just to take the magnifying glass out and help you see your truth that's within you. It's within you. It's not something outside. It's within you. We find this truth out about ourselves by doing step 4 and 5. By actually doing step 4 is where I learn this truth about myself. And sometimes I learn things about myself that I don't necessarily like. But isn't that what inventory is all about? It's about finding the things that are not working and looking at the things that are working in our life. Because there's some things that you've already been doing all your life that's working well for you. And then there's other things that's completely unmanageable. And so, we got to take this inventory to see what's working and what's not working, So at this point, I'm going to start right at the bottom of 65. It says we went through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. I want you to circle the word thoroughness. Now, and honesty. Now, I don't really know what thoroughness means, but I would think that it would mean that, kind of like when I'm cleaning something and I'm really thorough, that means I'm not leaving anything behind. Thoroughness. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. Thoroughness. Up to this point, I hope that everybody had written down a lot. If this is your first time doing this, I hope everybody had written down a lot in column 1. Because I did. The first time I did it, I had 167 resentments. 167 resentments. And I have saved that inventory. I've been looking for it and I can't find it, but I will find it. Okay, because I wanted to show you how 167 resentments. I was sober 2 days. You see, the world and its people really dominated me. And anger, I realized, had the power to kill. Okay, so that's why when I wrote my second column, my sponsor would say to me, man, I want to feel that anger. Are you mad at that ex-wife for cheating on you? Then put it in there. I want to feel that anger with your words. I want to feel it. If you want to kill her, I wanted her to die. She had cheated on me. Not that I was going to do that. But I learned in the second column that anger has the power to kill. And not only that, but it was in my own thoughts, not yours. It was my own thoughts that anger has the power to kill. That's why we have to be free. And then we're not talking about drinking. We're not talking about, this has got nothing to do with drinking. This has got everything to do with being freaking angry. Okay? Because I can be angry in sobriety, suffering. Okay, so nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. Again, how many times was honest written in the beginning of how it works? 3 times right there. And there it is again. We got to be thorough and honest. Thorough. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. Okay, finished with what? Finished with doing page 65. Okay, that's all. We're just copying this page exactly. The headings are going to be right. I'm resentful at column 1. They put a little gap between Mr. Jones and Mrs. Jones. Normally, that gap between Mr. Jones and Mrs. Jones, Mr. Brown and Mrs. Jones, is usually about 5 lines on line paper. I've counted them out and measured it. It's usually about 5 lines. So all I'm doing is copying page 65 exactly as it is with my own information. That means in the second column, I am going to describe why I am so angry with the person or female or whoever is in column 1. And that could be a principle. Okay, I want to, since it's all guys here, I'm going to talk about the principle of marriage. I had resentful at the principle of marriage. Why? Because I was in love with her, and then she went and married some other dude and not me. You see? Now I'm mad about the institution of marriage because I ain't never going to get any from her, but I really liked her a lot, and I wish she wasn't married. You see? Now, that could be, now that's one instance. I can give you some other things where I've slept with married women. Okay, when I was younger, I don't. Oh shit! Somebody's coming in now. A female. Dang it. Um. Anyway, where I've slept with other women. Okay, and they were married. Okay, you see the institution of marriage. You see how I'm getting resentful at institutions and things like that now. Okay, what about the institution of like? What about the cops? Right? What about the cops and jails and yeah, jails and prisons and correction officers and probation officers. What about all that garbage that I created it all? I like to think that honestly, you are the master creator of your own life because you have created everything up to this point, whether it's real or imagined. Imagine is I made up shit in my own head that wasn't even real, and I believed it. Now, is that a delusional state? Absolutely. But I made it up and I believed it. I believed it wholeheartedly, and I would fight you to the death to prove that I'm right, even when I was wrong. Remember in step 3, it says, even when our motives are good, we're still in collision. Because I'm still suffering from untreated alcoholism, and that's what we're inventorying about. Okay? It says the first thing, we're going to go on to page 66. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. Hell yeah, they were often quite wrong. They were all of them. I'm going to underline that. We're often quite wrong. Hell yeah. Like they were wrong all the time and I was right. To concludes that others was wrong was as far as most of us ever got. So as far as most of us ever got was pointing the finger. And I want to tell you this paragraph that we're reading is a review of column 1, 2, and 3. It's just a quick review. It says, all right, to conclude that other was wrong was as far as most of us ever got. So I call that pointing the finger. I love pointing the finger at everybody else. I will point the finger at everybody else. But when you realize you point the finger, look at that. If you look in the thing, you'll see I'm pointing one finger at you, but there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. That's the way I was told. Never point the finger, you know? So I got to learn to stop pointing the finger. And it says the usual outcome was that the people in column 1, that people in column 1 continued to wrong us in column 2. All right, I'll go a little slower. It's the 4th line down. The usual outcome was the people in column 1 continued to wrong us in column 2, and we stayed sore in column 3. You see, it's just a review of 1, 2, and 3 of everything that you've written so far. So people wronged me in 2, I stayed sore in column 3. And I would say sore is more like pissed off, right? Because we're talking about angry, right? I just wrote pissed off. Just angry at the whole world and everybody. And I was never going to calm down. And people said, man, why are you always an angry drunk? Why are you always an angry drunk? Because I didn't know how to be free from fucking anger. I had no clue how to be free. It says sometimes it was remorse and we were sore at ourselves. Sometimes I was remorseful or guilty of things I had done, and I was sore at myself. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, remember step 3, right? The more I tried to fight and have my own way and control every detail of the play, the worse matters got, even when my motives were pure. As in war, the victory only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived, short-lived. I only thought I had beat it when I didn't. I only thought for a second. So again, that was a quick review, right? It says, now it's going to go into the next paragraph, is all going to describe why we need to be free from anger. It says, it's plain that life, which includes deep resentment, leads only to futility, which is uselessness and unhappiness. You know, I want to be happy and I don't want to feel useless. I've already felt that way for so many years before I even came here. It says, to the precise extent that we permit these, so if you're going to allow these things to happen, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? I'm just wasting time. Worthwhile, wasting time. But with the alcoholic whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience. So that's my hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience. But I cannot have that. It says this business of resentment is infinitely grave. Okay, we found that it is fatal. I guess that means deadly, right? Fatal, death, kill, right? For when harboring such feelings, so when I'm holding on to anger, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. You ever try to talk any sense into someone when they're really, really angry? Good luck, because you can't. Because no one can do it to me. When I was really angry, it's like I'm possessed by anger, and no one can talk any sense into me. Not at all. So far, futility, unhappiness, infinitely grave. We found it to be fatal. When harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. And with us to drink is to die. Again, this is how serious this fourth step is. It's about drinking or dying. If I don't do this fourth step, I will drink a fifth. How many times have you heard that? If I don't do a fourth, I'm going to drink a fifth. Okay? Because even in sobriety, I'll be suffering. I got to take inventory and look at it. It says if we were to live, we had to be free from anger. I underlined it. We have to be free. I got to be free from anger. It says the grouch, a grouch is someone who's complaining, and the brainstorms were not for us. They may be a dubious luxury of normal men, non-alcoholics. So I'm just writing down alcoholics above normal men. But for alcoholics, these things are poison. So now they're telling me resentment is poison, it's deadly, it's useless, and it's going to make me feel unhappy. So, and not only that, but it has the power to kill too. That's how important it is. Okay. It says right here, return back to the list. So we got to go back to page 7. We got to go back to page 65. But what are they? You think they're referring to column 1 or 2, or you think they're referring to column 3? Because I don't think they're referring to column 1 or 2 at all. Because if it did, it would say, well, let's go look at the list of resentments, or let's go look at it's saying referring back to the list again, right? Return back to the list, for it held a key to the future. It holds, so we have to look back because it holds a key to the future, to the key to my future. I like writing little words in there to make it more personal, my future. And then it says, we were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. And so I underlined from an entire different angle. What the heck do they mean by that? I got to look at it now. So I got to go back to the list. It's not going to be column 1 or 2. It's going to be column 3. And I have to look at it from a completely different angle from what I had been looking at it at when I first looked at page 65 and we sat down and we wrote it all out and copied it the same way. Now I'm prepared to look at it from a completely different angle from the way that I had looked at it from before. You follow me? I got to look at it at a completely different angle, like 360 degrees or 180 degrees. I got to look at it at a completely different angle. And the angle that we're going to look at it as is from an ego state of being. because the ego is cunning, baffling, powerful, just like alcohol. But the ego is what's going to get us when we're sober. It's going to get us to, ego wants us to destroy ourselves. You know, that's why you remember in step 3, it's just defeated by self. You know, it started again on page 64, I believe. It said, being convinced that self manifested in various ways with the ego was what had defeated us. Right? Being convinced that self manifests in various ways was what had defeated us. Various ways, ego state of being. Various ways. And this, as we consider this common, self defeated self. So self can't overcome self. You know, I need, again, lack of power was my dilemma. So we got to look at it from an entirely different angle. And we're going to look at it from an ego state of being. People came in, a couple people came in late. I'm on page 6, and right at the bottom now, everybody's coming in now because this is like the normal time. So I can continue. This is what we could do. Well, I've already started, so it's hard to stop at this point. So we had started about 30 minutes ago. I had posted it. It's going to be like this until the UK changes their clocks, or European, because we've changed our clocks. So we're going to be off by a bit here. I think we got one more week where we're going to be off by next. I think it's next Saturday, maybe, because you guys change it on Sunday. So we got one more Saturday. I did it when I set these times. I set them to be almost exactly, because we're off by an hour. So instead of me being off an hour or you being off an hour, we're only off by 30 minutes each side. So it's even Steven. So the meeting starts 30 minutes earlier until you guys change your clocks. So what we decided to do is, when we started the meeting, there was only 4 of us in here. 2 people were struggling with the inventory. So I thought, since there was only 4 of us here, we would go back and re-go over the inventory one more time. And just because it was us here, and I don't want to stop what I'm doing right now midstream. And so I'm going to continue on. I'm hoping that people that have already done this and already had an experience will just stay and will follow me, and maybe you'll have another experience. Or if you want to have a deeper experience, just let me know. Put something in the chat. There's so many different ways to continue having deeper and effective experiences by doing this. This just opens the door to show you how to do it, you know? And then you can do it with so many things. Recovery is all about, you ever hear people talk about the layer of the onion? You know, and I do my first step and I do my first 4th step and I peel off one layer of the onion. And then after a couple months, I'm like, ooh, I want to go deeper. And then I go back and do a really good, and do another layer. And then maybe a year later, I go back and I just keep peeling layers of the onion, because I'm only capable of going as deep within myself that I'm capable of going, you know, at this particular moment. You know, when I'm sober longer and I got more experience, I'll be able to go a little bit more deeper. So don't compare yourself, you know, with this inventory with somebody else that's been sober for a while and the way they speak, you know, because they're naturally going to keep improving themselves to become better. That's what this thing's all about, is not being the same person I was when I came here. They told me I needed to change everything and I got overwhelmed. It's all about a little change at a time, a little change at a time. So when we're done with this 4th step, I'm going to give you a couple things that you can start working on changing, like being more patient and being more tolerant of everything. And when I got to be patient, I need to practice pause. When I feel disturbed on the inside by somebody, it says when we hold on, harboring such feelings, when I'm disturbed by my feelings on the inside, I got to take a time out for a second and I got to pause. And you see, at this point, you know, we've already talked about the 3rd step prayer. We got some prayers that we can use. When I got to pause and say a prayer. You know, again, this is life or death. It's life or death. Whether I live a spiritual program or not, it's life or death for me. I have to live a spiritual program, because if I don't, it's death. You know, I am just going to eventually just suffer needlessly, you see? So I got to find a spiritual way of life that you've all had walked and shown me before. Yeah, it's work every day. Yes, it's work every day, but the benefits are way beyond, you know? So I want to start, where was I again? Okay, so we're at the bottom of 66. We're right where it says we turn back to the list for it held a key. to my future. It holds a key. So I need to go back and look at it from an entirely different angle. Why? Because the key is in there. The key is in there. This is why I have to do this. Okay. So at this point, we're going to take a step back. We're going to go back to page 65. We're just going one page back. And what we're going to do here is I got my sheet of paper. You see, just like this. I hope everyone's got some paper in front of you because this is a workshop. Okay. You see that word? It says WORK. So that means we're going to apply that. We're going to do a little work, right? So what we're going to do here is since everybody has done this already, and I know there was two guys that had just finished this up. Okay. So what I want you to do, I want you to listen to me. I want you to take a clean pad, just like this. That's all I want you to do. And then I want you to look at your list that's in front of you on from page 65. And I'm just going to do it because I'm just comparing to Mr. Brown. So what I would write, I want you to write in the margin. I don't want you to write below the margin. I want you to write in the margin. You see where I'm at the very top? You're going to put the first person on your list. So right up very top, I'm going to write Mr. Brown. You see how I wrote Mr. Brown? Oh, you see? Tippity top. Because right underneath Mr. Brown is going to be why you're angry. So I'm going to write his attention to my wife. And told my wife of my mistress. Well, this is a juicy one. I'm just writing it down. And then Brown. So I'm writing those three resentments that Mr. Brown has right underneath Mr. Brown. There's 1, 2, and 3. So his attention to my wife, told my wife of my mistress, and 3, Mr. Brown might get my job. Okay, so it's going to look just like this. Can everybody see that? Actually, I'm going to need to put it on. No. All right. Can everybody see what I did here? Put it on the very top. Ben, you see that? Okay, so your column 1 that you already wrote, the name is going to go right there. And then your column 2 is going to go right here. You with me so far? Carlos, you with me? Okay, I want to make sure I don't lose anybody because I know I lost somebody a couple weeks ago. So I'm just going to go a little slower. And so, okay. So what we're going to do here, you see how in column 3, all we did on page 65 is just write the words, those 6 words, or yeah, it was 6 words we wrote. Self-esteem, pocketbook, ambitions, personal relations, sex relations, and security. Now, for me, I'm just showing you how I did it. I wrote it on the inside of my book here. I wrote it right here. So when I'm doing this third column, all I'm doing is copying these words all right here. Just listen them all down. It makes it real easy for me when they're written right there. So I'm not going all the way back and looking over here. That's why I have them written down. Okay. It makes me easier. So with all that stuff that you filled out in that third column, we're going to take a look at that. And so I just need to have my book in front of me. Give me 1 second here. Trying to do this from my couch too. It's a little more comfortable for me. So everybody got this written already? It's all blank. What we're going to do is the first word we're going to write down is we're going to write down self-esteem. I usually do it about 1 line after that column too, and we're just going to write it. If you have a margin like I do, I'm just going to write the word in the margin. I'm going to write self-esteem. Okay. So we got self-esteem. We're going to count down 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to write pride. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to write ambitions. 4. Security. Security. So we got self-esteem, 4 lines, count 4 lines down. Pride, count 4 lines down. Ambitions, count 4 lines down. Security, count 4 lines down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then personal relationships. And then 4 lines down, sex relations. That should be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count down 4 lines after sex relations, and I want you to write 1, 2, 3. I want you to write harms. So what we just did should look like this. You see, all I'm doing is keeping it nice and neat, just writing on the margin, skipping 4 lines, self-esteem, and just wrote them all the way down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6. Oh, there's 7. I forgot pocketbook. My bad. So just above harms, just write pocketbook. Pocketbook is going to be any way it's affected your money, finances. And then harms is at the bottom. So if you start to see any harms that you've done around a resentment, we call them collateral damage, I think I discussed some of this. Okay, so we're about to start this. We just wanted to make this up. Now I know there is some printouts that you can have that's had this already printed out. You just fill in the blanks. Okay, so I always like to say a little prayer first before I start writing this 3rd column, and then the little prayer goes something like this. God, please help me see my truth about my resentments. Amen. Because it's all about is me seeing my truth, And like I said, I like inventories where I see something that's revealed to me I didn't even know the way I'd been living. So, it says, I want you to keep in mind columns 1 and 2 while writing the 3rd column. We considered it carefully. We look at the 3rd column and consider the opposite. The opposite of each sentence to let the inventory reveal your fears behind each of the 7 areas itself. And what we're going to do here is we added in pride, because pride's in the inventory on page 65. It's bracketed. It's right at the bottom of 65. And then you notice all the fears are all bracketed too. So when we're doing this 3rd column, we're going to do pride. We already have pride listed in there. And we're going to do the fear bracketed. It's all part of that 3rd inventory. It's all part of that 3rd column inventory is finding the fears. And then that sets it up for the fear inventory. So the first one is going to be self-esteem. So what I want you to remember is that remember page 61 and 62. Remember, we're an actor. We try to control every detail of the play. I want you to remember all the different character roles that you've played, right? And I want you to kind of think about that. Being an actor, signing roles. Think about that 3rd step, right? Signing roles. So the first one is going to be self-esteem, and it's how you feel about yourself. How I feel about myself. It's the role that I assign. It's the role that you assign yourself to yourself. It's your role, okay? And so self-esteem is always going to begin with, now I want you to think about this now. We're coming from a completely different angle, okay? And now I like to think that I'm very humble and very chill and very spiritual. So the only way for me to come from a different angle is to set it coming from an ego state of being. I have never come from that place before because I thought I suffered from low self-esteem, when the reality is I suffered from high self-esteem. Let me explain, okay? I always thought I felt low self-esteem from the way that people treated me. You follow with me so far, okay? I felt bad the way people treated me, okay? And I hate when I lose my train of thought. The button, my shirt was open and I was closing the button, completely lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens when I'm being recorded too. It's an old person thing. Okay, so let me see if I can get myself back here for a second. Okay. Can somebody unmute and just help me out for a second and bring me right back? Because I just completely, I'm sorry. You know what? Nobody can unmute themselves, can they? I'm stuck. I'm the only one. I have all.
I got some power, Brian. I got some
Okay, all
power.
right, help me out. Help me out.
So we're just looking at the areas of self and how we're going to approach them, right? So with self-esteem, we're looking at I am, so how I feel about myself, right? Pride being how we feel others see us. Ambitions is my wants. I want. My security is the things that I need to be okay. Personal relations is same sex. Sexual relations is opposite. And how we look at pocketbooks is obviously anything financial. Did that get your train of thought back, Brian?
You did.
Yep. Cool.
That's good. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was all about the characters and all playing different roles and all this stuff. And what I found out by doing my inventory this way is I found out I had been living a certain character a certain way, and I didn't even know it. I thought I was the opposite. That's why it says we have to completely look at it from an entire different angle, because I honestly thought with all the belief and everything in me that I was living the opposite way completely. And then when it was pointed out to me, it was just, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I really want to change. That was my experience by doing it this way. That was my experience, was that I had saw my truth, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the way I'd been. So let's go back to self-esteem for a second. And I know Sean talked about self-esteem, and it begins with I am. So I want you to think about I am, when you're coming from an ego state, I am the best. You think about that, right? Is there something you wanted to always be the best at? I am the best. So it's going to refer to the resentment, whatever that resentment is. So I'm giving you an example here. I'm on Mr. Brown. So my self-esteem, first I want to read Mr. Brown. I'm resentful at Mr. Brown, his attention to my wife. I'm going to put myself in the shoes. Bill's shoes, whoever did the inventory. So I'm mad at Mr. Brown because he's paying attention to my wife. How dare he even talk to my wife? Doesn't he know that's my wife and he needs to step off? You see where we're going here? I want to feel that anger. Okay. So he says, attention to my wife. Why is anybody paying any attention to my wife? Right? They need to leave her alone. Right? Told my wife of my mistress. Well, now I want to kill Mr. Brown straight up. Right? That dude snitched on me. We're going to call that a snitch. Right? Told my snitch. What do we say? Snitches get ditches. The snitches found in ditches. Snitches get stitches. All right. Okay. So I want you to follow with me. So she snitched him out. So what does he want to do? Think about it. Put yourself in that. I always want to kill Mr. Brown. He done screwed up my marriage, right? He done screwed everything up. I had a good thing going here. I had a mistress on the side and I had a wife. And Mr. Brown is done blocked me, right? Okay. So what's the last resentment? Brown might get my job. I really want to take out Mr. Brown. He's going to get my job. He's going to get my woman. And he snitched on me. So I want you to think about it. Think about that anger. Put yourself in that shoes and go, you know what? I think so. Self-esteem. I am. Well, first off, I'm going to start off with I am the best worker because Mr. Brown is not going to get my job. So I am going to be the best worker. Or coworker, however you want to put it, but coworker, right? And then I am. So we're looking at. So I got his, I am the best coworker. So that takes care of Mr. Brown getting my job, okay? And then told my wife about mistress. So this is a really juicy one here, right? So I am. I'm trying to come up with something. A lot of times you're going to play with these words. You might get the fears, and then you're going to go back and get it. It's going to take some thought. It's going to take a lot of thought to put the words together to get it to sound right. So again, I am the best coworker. And then I was thinking about what the wife told my wife of the mistress, that I am the best husband. And then the last one is attention to my wife. I am his attention to my wife. Because you see, his attention to my wife, what I wrote after that is jealousy or jealous. So that's what he is. He's jealous of someone talking to his wife. The wife, he got snitched on. And then Browns might get my job at the office. You see how this is going now. So I am the best husband. And I'm thinking of one more for his attention to the wife about being jealous. Like, I don't get jealous. I'm the best husband. I am the best husband. Then I'm going to put after that, I don't get jealous. All right. Did everybody see how I kind of came up with those three from the original free? Did everybody see how I did that? I just want to make sure I don't want to lose nobody. This is real important. Everybody see that? Thumbs up. Okay. Can you do the same thing with what you wrote down on page 65? So again, top of the sheet, you're going to put your column 1, your column 2. This is a column 3 expansion that we have to do. Okay. So again, column 1 and 2 is top of the sheet. I already told you how to write it. Some of you have printouts to make it easier. Okay. So again, I want you to think about the self-esteem is going to go with the resentment, with that column 2. It's coming out of that column 2. Again, that column 2 is attention to my wife, right? So I put, I'm the best husband. And then I put, I don't get jealous. So I want you to just continue down like that as we're going. So again, the next one is going to be pride. So what I write down for self-esteem, just to help me, is I just write down, I am. Just I am. Because that puts me at the top. I am at the top of what? I am what, right? So I'm going to read my 3 to you one more time. I am the best coworker because I'm afraid Mr. Brown's going to get my job. So what do? Well, we can go back to page 61, and what does it say in there? Well, I exert myself even more. You see how much that page 61 applies into our life? So since Mr. Brown might get my job at the office, I'm going to exert myself even more and maybe even be more demanding. So Mr. Brown won't. You see where we're going with page 61. You see how it just expands into every area of our lives for us to really keep looking at. Okay. I am the best husband. And so, I don't want to get into the fears yet, but I am the best husband for a lot of different reasons in here, right? Told my wife of my mistress, his attention to my wife, I'm the best husband, and I don't get jealous. Okay. We can go down into pride. And pride is how I think others see me. So I just put pride up at how I think others see or feel about me. It's the role that I assign others. And the sentence is going to start out with, again, if it's the role that I assign others, first, a role that I assign myself is going to begin with I, because it's a role I assign myself. A role that I assign others is going to begin with others. And it's going to be either others should or others shouldn't. But it's going to begin with others because that's the role that I give to others. Okay? The role I give myself is going to begin with I. So again, others should or others shouldn't. So I'm going to go others shouldn't talk to my wife. Or others shouldn't pay attention, or others shouldn't give attention to my wife. You see? Others shouldn't give attention to my wife. Others should just mind their own business. Others should mind their own business, especially Mr. Brown. Again, I'm just looking at the resentment and attention to my wife, told my wife the mistress, Mr. Brown might get my job, so I put others shouldn't pay attention to my wife. Others Others should mind their own business, especially Mr. Brown. I think that's good enough. Ambitions. Ambitions is what you want to happen. It starts with I want. So what do you think Mr. Brown would want for his ambitions? So I want Mr. Brown to disappear. Am I right? You all feel me on that, right? Don't you want Mr. Brown to just disappear and just get the hell out of my life and just go? Okay. So as I'm going down and doing this with Mr. Brown, do it with your own, what you've already wrote down. Do it with your own. Don't just sit here and listen to me. Work on it, listen to me and write at the same time when it applies to you. All I'm doing is I'm just taking Mr. Brown and I'm just going down the list to help you. Okay. Again, Sean already did that, and I'm just kind of backing up what Sean did. Ambitions is what I want. I want Mr. Brown to disappear. That's it. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. As he disappears, I'm going to keep my job and keep my wife. Okay? Remember, what you're asking yourself, what do I want to happen with this resentment? What do I want to happen here? Okay? Security. What I need to be okay. What do I need to be okay? The sentence is going to start out with I need. What do I need to be okay? Well, I got a lot of things going on here with Mr. Brown. I got some jealousy. He snitched on me. I want to kill him. I want him to disappear. So I got a lot of things going on with Mr. Brown, right? So what do I need to be okay? Again, I could go back and go, well, I want Mr. Brown to disappear, but that's really what I want him to do. What do I need to be okay? What do I need? Again, security starts out with I need. It's security. What do I need to feel secure? Need. I need Mr. Brown to mind his business. And basically, just leave me alone. I just want him to leave me alone. Unlike what I want Mr. Brown is to disappear. Now I need Mr. Brown to mind his own business. So I'm going to start again. Self-esteem starts off with I am. It's the role I assign myself. Pride is the role I assign others. It's going to start with others should or others shouldn't. Ambitions is what I want. Security is what I need. Personal relationship, it's just a deep-seated belief on how this relationship is supposed to look. How is this relationship, whatever relationship you have that you're writing about with this resentment, how is that relationship supposed to look like? It's going to start off with, this one gets a little tricky because it's personal relationships. So it's going to start off with like wives or husbands or mothers or real friends. I'm not sure what to write here with Mr. Brown. With the personal relation. Others wives. Well, I'm going to put in here wives should, or no. It's going to be a real wife trust her husband. You see how I kind of switched up as I was writing it? And I was like, nope, this is going to fit better. You're going to be doing that. You're just going to be molding it with the words for a while to get everything to it just takes a little bit. Once you're doing this for a while, you do about 2 or 3, it's just going to you're going to start to understand, and it's just going to start to flow. Okay. And then sex relations, a deep-seated belief in how a real man or a real woman is supposed to be. The sentence is going to start off with a real man, or I actually put it in relationships, so it would be wives. Wives trust their husbands, and then in sex relations, it's going to say a real wife. Oh, it's a deep-seated belief. So a deep-seated belief would be a real wife forgives and forgets. Again, it's got to come from the ego state, and it's got to be sex. So a real life forgives and forgets. Because in a sense, since he got away with it, well, I guess he kind of didn't get away with it. But you see what I'm saying? It's like if the wife doesn't forgive him and doesn't forgive and doesn't forget, I don't know if he'll do that again. But if she does forgive him and does forget about it, he might continue to keep doing it. Think about that. Someone keeps exhibiting bad behavior and you don't say anything, it's just going to keep continuing and progressively probably get worse. Sean, you want to jump in? Okay. And then pocketbook. Pocketbook is just anything that's so let's think about this for a second. It's going to be anything finance. Mr. Brown's pocketbook is affected. All right. Let's think about this for a second. His attention to my wife, told the wife of a mistress, might get my job. So he might get the job at my office. That definitely threatens finance, right? Pocketbook. Mr. Brown might get the job. But there's something else in here, and that's Mr. Brown told the wife of the mistress. So most likely the wife is going to want to get a divorce, and that's going to affect them financially. You see how that resentment just starts with Mr. Brown, and it's already affecting them financially. He might get a divorce, might lose job. So you see his finances, he's being threatened. Remember, hurt, threatened, or interfered with? Well, finance, pocketbook's definitely threatened, right? Sex relations is definitely threatened or interfered with. You know, you can just keep on going down the list and you're going to see everything's hurt, threatened, or interfered with. And then on the bottom, underneath pocketbook, I just wrote the word harms. And if you can see any other harms, so I'm going to give you an example. Now, I don't know this whole story. We're only taking it from page 65. But I'm going to assume that there is a backstory behind it. And I don't remember where I found it. I found it in the book. But Mr. Brown, again, it's a story, okay? But then again, you see, Mr. Brown is his coworker. And Mr. Brown told, I want you to think about this for a second. Mr. Brown is his coworker, which means he works with Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, which means they're sharing intimate things enough where Mr. Brown told his wife of the mistress, right? And he's been paying a lot of attention to my wife because he knows these secrets about me. I want you to follow me with that, right? So the moment that Mr. Brown tells the wife of the mistress, he's affected by all different characters are affected. Think about it. Think about the characters that Mr. Brown is playing. He's a husband. I don't know if he has any children, but just from what we know from page 65, we know he's a husband and we know he's a coworker. Both characters are being threatened, hurt, threatened, or interfered with. So I'm naturally, if something of me is being threatened, I'm naturally going to go to that anger state of being, and I'm going to scare everybody away. When reality is I want people close to me. But when I'm angry, I am just pushing everybody away from me as far as I can, especially when I'm possessed of that anger, because that's all you're doing is pushing everybody away. It shuts you off from the sunlight of the spirit. Okay, did everybody follow me so far with this third column? Did anybody have any questions at all with this third column? Ben, Carlos, you guys are solid on this? I don't know if you can mute or not. But yeah, you're unmuted.
With this pocketbook, what do we need to write?
So anything affects, listen, your pocketbook is your money. It's your finances. They just called it pocketbook back then because, I don't know, they just didn't write. But a pocketbook so a pocketbook is like the same thing as a wallet. A pocketbook is what women carry around. Today we call it a purse. Back then it was called a pocketbook, and you carried it around. Men had a wallet. But either way, still a pocketbook is affecting your money. So how does it affect your finances? How does it affect your money? That's why I went over with Mr. Brown and his wife, right? Mr. Weiss found out about the mistress. Well, the moment the wife finds out about the mistress, she's going to have a talk. you know, and that talk might not be very, very friendly talk. And it's probably going to be a talk about divorce, right? You see, and immediately the husband, character number one, is threatened because he no longer has a wife. That's what makes him a husband, is having a wife. Without a wife, you are not a husband. You see how that's really threatened now. And then you got, once that's threatened, then you got the finances that you're automatically going to know this comes with a divorce immediately. Another character, Mr. Finance Guy. I was the finance guy in my house. I paid all the bills. She had stuff in her name, but I paid all the bills and I paid the mortgage. I paid everything. And we just put it all in a central account and I just took care of everything. You see? But the moment she said, I want a divorce, Mr. Finance was completely threatened. Mr. Finance was threatened. My finances were threatened. All I thought was, well, how much money do you want? You see? You see what I want you all to feel how real this stuff is real. Again, it's so real that the next step, step 5, is life and death. And not only that, but we did hear death in being angry. We are so angry that the anger has the power to kill. I really want you all to get that. Man, remember when I was on the workshop a couple weeks ago and I was sharing how my ex-wife cheated on me? Can you feel how angry I was? I'm in another country. How dare her do that to me? How dare you do that to me? I really
Brian,
want you to get that because that's what this is all about. How dare you do that to me? Yeah, go ahead, Benny.
after you're done with the recording, can you take a picture of like just to make sure I got it right, can you take a picture of your notebook and send it to the WhatsApp?
My notebook? You mean like what I wrote down here?
Yeah, that, yeah.
It's everything I just did this while we were here. I just wrote the names down and I just wrote, you know, I am the best coworker. I'm the best husband, right? I don't get jealous. Others shouldn't pay attention to my wife. Others should mind their own business, especially Mr. Brown. You feel the anger, right? You guys feel this anger of Mr. Brown, right? I want Mr. Brown to disappear. We could put death. It doesn't matter. We could put death. I could say I want to kill Mr. Brown. Yeah, I could say that. I want to kill Mr. Brown. Because just because I want to do something, just because I feel like killing somebody, doesn't mean I'm going to. Just because I felt like killing my ex-wife more than once, all right? I wouldn't do it because she's the mother of my children. That would always stop me. That would always stop me. The moment it would just stop. But it doesn't help me to play with the idea up here. You see? And this is where this inventory comes in because I used to play with that idea all the time. I would picture it. I would picture the whole thing going through in my own mind. I'm just taking her out. You know, I would play that tape all the way through into anger, and she's gone. Now she's gone in my own mind. I've already killed her. You know? Now I'm telling you, these are not just my thoughts. You have the same thoughts that I do because some of you are smiling and some of you, because you know what I'm talking about. You feel what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm using this as an example because you can feel this. So when you write this, man, write this with passion, with feeling. Really feel that. That's what I put in the ambitions. I want to kill Mr. Brown. That's the truth. That is the truth. If I was Bill and Mr. Brown did that, I'd be looking for Mr. Brown. I would be in a dark alley ready to beat the shit out of him so he can't go to work. You see? No, but I'm just saying where my mind is at. And my mind isn't any different than any of yours. You're all going to think of retribution too. You know, might be a different way. You know, you might want to just tie his shoes together versus me trying to punch him in the face or something. You see what I'm saying? But I want you to feel how angry it is in this column. When we're doing this third column, what do I want? I want him dead. You know, I want him to disappear. I want him to mind his business, right? In personal relationships, I want wives trust their husbands. And then in sex relations, a real wife forgives and forgets. That's a big one, right? That's what I want. I want her to forgive and forget, right? That's what, and then we can continue the relationship, right? Okay. Is everybody good with all that so far?
Brian, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why do we've got resentment towards Mr. Brown, and then we concentrating to the woman, not resentment to him? Do you know what I mean by that?
Not at all. You completely lost me.
Right. I'll try to explain you after the meeting then.
Well, no, I can't. That's not the whole point. The whole point is not losing you. The whole point of us doing this is so we move as a group forward. That's the whole. I mean, I like doing things as a group. We all, have an experience. This, this is an experience. This third column that you're working on is an experience within itself. It's a complete experience within itself, separate from the fourth column experience, because the fourth column, I'm going to have a completely different experience than I have in the third column. Go ahead, Sean.
Can I think you're trying to say, Carlos, about the inventory being hers. The inventory is yours. If that's what you're saying about looking at her, you're not looking at her. We're looking at ourselves and our actions. The inventory is ours, mate. Like, we're putting out, it's not theirs. We don't need to look at them or anything like that. Is that what you're getting at? Do you understand what I'm saying, Carlos?
Yeah, I do, but this is the comparison to Mr. Brown. His attention to my wife. So I'm angry at Mr. Brown, and then affects my
Chris.
personal relations. A real wives trust her husbands.
Right.
But I'm angry at Mr. Brown, so I'm not angry at my wife yet, sort of thing. I just confused. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know.
Listen, Carlos, Mr. Brown is in column 1. That is all the resentment is about who's in column 1. Well, column 1 is Mr. Brown, but that isn't your column 1. That's the example. Tell me what's in your column 1. What's the first person in your column 1? And let's do it this way. Carlos, you're unmuted. What's in column 1? What's the first person you have in column 1? The first name.
I'm just confused. No, I think I'm doing something wrong. So,
The whole point of us doing this is you were not confused 5 minutes ago. You were not confused because I asked, does everybody understand? And you shook your head. Now you're telling me you're confused. Okay. Anyway, so again, I went over the resentment here with Mr. Brown. His attention to my wife. You see, his attention to my wife is that he's flirting. Let's just get this real. Mr. Brown is flirting with my wife because that's what he's doing. Okay, he's flirting. And what does that do to me? That gets me jealous. Get away from my woman. This has got nothing to do with the woman. It has everything to do with Mr. Brown that's in column 1. Told my wife of my mistress. Well, he's a snitch now. He snitched on me. I really want to hurt him. First, he's flirting with my wife. And then he snitched on me. And then Mr. Brown might get my job at the office. It has nothing to do with the job at the office. Has nothing to do with the woman that he's cheated on. Because we don't even know her name. We don't even know who the mistress is. But we do know who the wife is. And the wife is just called the wife. She doesn't even have a name herself either. Okay? So it has nothing to do with anybody else. Only what's in column 1. And that is going to change with each person that you go to. I hope I made that a little clearer. So I'm going to go over to the next one, Mrs. Jones. I'm just going to drop, all I'm doing is dropping down. Mrs. Jones. So he's resentful at Mrs. Jones. Why? Because she's a nut. She snubbed me. I don't know what snub means. I think it's more like not being polite maybe and just walking away from somebody or something like that. Snub. She committed my friend, her husband, for drinking, and she's a gossip. You see, it's got nothing to do. It's all about the person in column 1. Well, I would feel, I'm just reading something in the chat. I would feel really messed up. I'm going to feel really angry. Again, we're just putting yourself in the shoes of Mr. Brown. And I would be pretty angry if I got some dude flirting with my wife, Clearly she got a ring on her finger. Stay away from her. He's flirting with her, and then he's gonna snitch on me by telling her something that I had done. And then he might get the job at the office because I'm slacking on my job. You follow me? It's got nothing to do. It's everything to do with the person in column 1. Everything. That's why you wrote about it in column 2, how angry you were, how angry you are at that person in column 2. This isn't any different. This is just column 3. So you're going to take Mr. Brown and write about all the things that I'm angry at Mr. Brown for column 2 at the top, and then we're just breaking the columns down. That's all we're doing. It's still about Mr. Brown. It's about the person at the top of the sheet. If you want to, you can circle the name at the top of the sheet so you don't forget. But I occasionally, when I'm doing inventory, I occasionally have to go back to column 1 and look at column 1 and remind myself, who am I writing inventory about? You know, what is this about? I got to go back and look at the person in column 1, and that's what I'm writing about. How am I affected by what the person did to me, hurt, threatened, or interfered with? I'm hurt, threatened, or interfered with my self-esteem, my pride, my ambitions, my security, my personal, and my sex, and my finances were all affected in one way or another by that resentment. Carlos, did that help you at all? Like I said, you got to do a couple of these, which means you're going to have to write. You have to put the pen to paper. It's the only way. You thinking about it, yeah, but you sitting there thinking about it is not going to, you got to put the pen to the paper. And if you notice me, when I was doing this, I'm writing, and then I'm scratching words out, and I'm rewriting, and I'm scratching. If you look at my whole thing, it's chicken scratch. I've scratched out all kinds of things because I'm creating this as I'm going, right? Just like I'm just creating it as I'm going. I'm creating this and going, okay, others should, and I'm crossing off words. Others shouldn't pay attention to my wife. That was one I just created as I was going for pride. I was just creating it as I was. And sometimes I'll cross things off because it doesn't sound right. Again, you're going to be working on this. It's going to be something you're going to mold for a bit here. It doesn't take long to do this. This is not something that's supposed to take weeks. This is something that's supposed to take like maybe a few minutes to a few hours. This isn't something that's supposed to take very long at all. You know, it's not a place to bulk. Third column inventory is not a place to bulk because all you're going to do is torture yourself and suffer needlessly when you don't have to. Okay, this is not the place or the time to be bulking. If you want to bulk, let's bulk after we finish the 4th column of resentment inventory. You know, this is not the place to bulk at all because all you're doing is making it harder for yourself. Okay, again, if you're not sure what to write for self-esteem, just skip it and go on to the next one. Why sit there and be stuck on something? Just move on to the next easier one. Okay, so let's say I'm stuck on self-esteem, but I can do pride. Then I'll write pride. You know, and then I'm not sure about ambitions, then I'll go write security. I just go down the list until I just do the easiest ones first, and then I'll go back and do the ones that are a little bit harder. Once you do the easier ones first, you're going to find that it's just going to take you a few of these to start to really understand it. The more you do this, the more you're going to understand it. That's why I decided to kind of do a second workshop on this, because I found in my experience, the more that I do inventory this way, the more of an experience I have every single time, because I can bring this as deep as I want to. You see? So it's something you're going to always go back to and revisit from time and time and time. Again, you know, I know Ben and Carlos got the handouts. And the handouts, it's the exact same thing that I just wrote down. It's the exact same thing. The only difference is I got chicken scratch and stuff scratched off, and I made up my own. That's the only difference. The handouts make it easier because you just fill in the blanks. That's all you got to do. It says, it's going to say it, you know, I am for resentment, for self-esteem. It's going to say I am, and you just fill in the blanks. It makes it so much easier having, you know, something printed out, and then you don't have to worry about it. You know, yes.
I'm kind of confused by the last line on page 67.
Why are we on the last line on page 67, dude? 67? Are you sure? Because 67 is the 4th column. page 67, and we're only on the third column. So I don't know if you went too far ahead.
It
Or what you
says,
did.
notice that the word fear is bracketed along the difficulties with Mr. Brown,
Right,
Mrs.
but we're not even,
Jones.
but we're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
We're not even there yet. Have I talked anything about fear being bracketed? No, I haven't talked about fear at all, have I? In this, what we're doing at all right now, have I?
I guess I was confused because
You went, you're thinking
Mm.
too far ahead, dude. You should be writing and not thinking. You should be writing. No, seriously, you should be writing and not looking. You looked you went a whole page ahead. I'm not sure why you did that, because we're on the bottom. We're on page 66, where it says, we turn back to the list for it held a key to the future, to your future. It holds a key to your future, Ben. And it holds a key to your future, Carlos. It holds a key to the future for every single one of us. And that key might be slightly different from you to me. But in order for you to find the key, you have to do the work. You see? We're not on page 67. So whatever you're talking about on page 67 doesn't mean anything right now. We are on page 66 and we're doing the third column. So Ben, stop looking ahead, because you're just gonna make yourself even way more confused. Okay. I was trying to see if I had any more examples I could use. Really want to get into it. Oh. Okay. Again, I don't know how I can make it any easier. Okay. Everybody has an ego. Everybody, even normal people, non-alcoholic, everybody has an ego. But with the alcoholic and drug addict, it's a bit more prevalent. You know, here's the thing. The whole ego state of being is for you to understand that you've been living in the state of being for so long that you didn't even know it. You didn't even know you had been living in that. Because I'm going to tell you, I've been sober a long time, so I always thought like I'm Mr. AA and I'm like, chill and all that. And the reality was that I've been living by an ego state all along. All along, I've been living by that way. So we have to inventory that, because that's a big thing that we need to inventory so we can change and not be like that anymore. I don't know about you, but I don't like hanging out with people that got big egos. I just don't. I just don't like hanging out with people like that. I prefer to hang out with people that are spiritual and we're all on the same path and we can have deep, meaningful conversations. So I'm going to read something to you. So while writing about your self-esteem, if you truly had low self-esteem when the person in column 1 did what they did to you in column 2, you would not have been resentful at all. I really want you to think about this for a second. For 1 second. If you weren't so angry on the inside, you would have felt like you got what you deserve in column 2, and you wouldn't even be angry at all. Have you ever got what you felt like you deserve? Because I know there's a few instances in my life where I felt I really got what I deserve, and I was not angry because I got what I deserve. I was like, I deserved it, and I just walked away. Okay? I don't feel that way with resentments. When people do shit to me, I am pissed. I'm pissed. Like I want to hurt them pissed. Like Mr. Brown pissed, right? I just get like that. I get mad, right? When people offend me, people steal from me, people rip me off, people take advantage of my kindness, people waste my fucking time. I can keep going on and on and on and on, right? And having all kinds of resentments. But I don't like to be that way anymore. I want to be free. I want to be free. It says we had to be free of resentment. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this third column? Because you're going to do it for every single one of your resentments. So again, if you got 28 people in column 1, you're going to do this 28 times because you got to do this for every single one of them. If you remember something, okay? Now, I'm just going to tell you something. On page 70, okay? On page 70, you can go there for a second because I'm going to show you this. Page 70, last paragraph, it says, we have been thorough about our personal inventory. Well, we can't be thorough until we got to be really thorough, which means we got to break it down, right? Only way to be thorough is to write. Okay? I really got to make this clear. Okay? So, if we have been thorough about our personal inventory, what does it say? If we have been thorough, we have written down a lot. What does it mean? What does a lot mean to you? What does it mean to write a lot? What does that mean? Does that mean lots of pages? Does that mean 5 pages, 10 pages? What does it mean to write a lot? Sorry, Rachel, I'm on the bottom of 70. I'm just skipping down because we're talking about writing. We're talking about if we have been thorough about my personal, if I've been thorough about my inventory, I have written down a lot. I'm going to tell you what a lot means to me. And what a lot means to me, if it doesn't mean that much to you, it will. Okay? What a lot means to me is I took a 5-subject notebook and I almost wrote every damn page on that 5-subject notebook. You know how big those things are? I'm telling you what, one of these days you're going to get lucky and I'm going to pull out my first inventory that I did with Mark. 167 resentments. 167 resentments. That's 167 of these sheets. 167. Forget about 28. Forget about 8. Forget about 4. 167. That's how much writing that I've done. And now I'm not bragging. I'm telling you that I was fucking angry at everything and everything and everybody in this world I was mad at. I felt like everybody just did me an injustice. Now, my sponsor said, do you really think that the whole world is going out and committing resentments just to you on purpose? My first thing I wanted to say was, yes, that is how I feel, the whole world. But the reality is, when I thought about it, was no. The whole world is not out to get me. The whole world is not out to try to get me as resentful as I can so I can kill somebody. The whole world isn't like that. But I am up here. Left to my own devices, I will self-destruct. I will self-destruct. So I'm telling you, if I've been thorough, I have written down a lot. I can tell you the work that I have done. And that's what I'm sharing it with you. Because, yeah, I was overwhelmed. And my sponsor said, we're just going to take one resentment at a time. And that's all we do. We just take one step at a time, one resentment at a time, and we'll just get through it. One step at a time. That's how we do. That's how we do sobriety. Isn't that one day at a time, right? One step at a time. If I have to go baby steps, then I'll go baby steps, you know? Okay, so we're at the bottom of page 66, and it says, I just stopped at, we were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. The entire different angle is from the ego state. Now, I hope nobody has any more questions on how to fill them out, because I'm about to move forward. You see, and if you don't do the work, you're not going to receive the benefits. If you're only going to get what you put into it is what you get out. This is your recovery, not me. I've done the work. I'm already free, but you're not. And I'm trying to tell you, follow me so you can be free, but you got to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're not going to be free. It's just as simple as that. It says right here, we began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. I like to think of the word dominate as also influence. Okay? The world and its people really dominated me in this state. Now, I had an experience in this state. You know what they're talking about in this state? They're talking about in this state of anger. Because it's resentment. That's exactly what we're talking about. In this state of anger, delusional state, when I'm in that delusional state of anger, all right, in that state of anger, the wrongdoings of others in column 2, fancied, that's made up because I make up shit all the fucking time. okay, made up, fancied, or real, has the power to actually kill. Did everyone see that in your second column? That the resentment has the power to actually kill. Did everybody see that? Because that's why I've been talking about it. I want Mr. Brown dead. I want to kill my ex-wife. It has the power. It is so powerful that it can kill. And not only that, but people do it in sobriety. It ain't about relapsing. That's why it says resentment is #1 offender. It doesn't say alcohol. It says resentment. Anger is #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. I don't want it to destroy me. I've already done enough. I've already done a number on myself. You know? And then it says, how could we escape? Man, I need an escape plan. Because I look at it this way. At this moment in time, as I'm reading the book, I feel like I'm kind of screwed. I haven't seen any promises yet. You know, other than the spiritual malady will overcome. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. But I haven't seen any more promises or anything. And I'm like, man, this is a lot of work in here, you know? So fancy to read how the power to kill. How can we escape? I got to escape this thing that's called death. You know, the anger. How can I escape anger? We saw these resentments must be mastered. But how? How can they be mastered? Okay, they can be mastered by us doing this third column and breaking this third column down and seeing our own truth. I got to see where I've been playing God. I got to see where I've been playing God. And the only way I'm going to see where I've been playing God is by doing this third column like this and breaking it down, because I can clearly see where I've been playing God. In all of this, if you remember back in step 3, it says we got to stop playing God. When I'm in that anger state and I'm in that ego state, I can't differentiate the true from the false. Think about it. If I am not thinking straight, I can't tell the difference between what's right and what's wrong. If I am not thinking properly, if I'm full of anger and I'm possessed with anger, I'm going to do wrong stuff, like yell at somebody, maybe put my hands on somebody. You see, if I am not thinking right, I am not going to act right. So if my thinking is all of anger, then I'm going to put out rage. You see? So is there any doubt when you're in that state of being, in that state of anger, in that state of ego, in that third column state? This is what we're talking about. When you're in that third column, okay, and you see your truth in that third column, is there any doubt that you're coming from a sick place? Are you spiritually sick in that third column? Because here's the thing. You have to be. You have to be spiritually sick in that third column, coming from an ego state of being. It's a false sense of self that I'm coming from looking at the second column. You see? It's the false sense of self. And I'm looking at the second column and I'm believing that everything in the second column is the truth, even when it's a lie. Because, man, that anger feels so real to me. You see? And I just wanted to kill her or Mr. Brown. It feels so real, right? It feels so real, even though it's not true. And I act out on what I think is true when it's not, and I create more drama, and we just go into step 3 all over together, right? I create all kinds of drama and I create my problems are of my own making. My sponsor said simply, Brian, stop making problems for yourself. Stop making problems for yourself. I am the master creator of my own life because I've created all of this. I've created all my defects. I've created it all. That is why lack of power is my dilemma, because it's almost like I am the God of my own world in a sense, because I've created it all. Once I was able to get away from my parents and live on my own, I've created the life that I have for myself. Nobody else created it for me. Whether it's the life that my parents wanted for me or not, that's something different. Okay, but I've created all of this. And with that creation, I create all these different character defects, and I create beliefs, I create behaviors, conduct. I just did it all. In all this mess that I'm writing about, is all the stuff that I've created it all. The thing is, I can't be the creator anymore. I cannot be the creator anymore because look what I just created. I created a huge mess with myself. I got to draw upon that power that we talked about in step 2. Lack of power was my dilemma. I got to find a way that I could live tapping into that power so I can live and be free. So I'm coming off of this third column feeling spiritually sick, because that's the end result of this third column. First off, I got to see where I'm in playing God, and I got to see where I'm spiritually sick all in that. And I'm spiritually sick in everything that I wrote about in that third column. I can clearly see how spiritually sick I am. Because the next line, it says, this was our course. Okay? So this is what we did. We realized that people who wronged, here's the thing. I want you to follow along with me. I'm on the bottom of the page, the 66. It says this was our course. We realized the people in column 1 who wronged us in column 2. I'm gonna say that again. We realized the people in column 1 who wronged us in column 2 were perhaps spiritually sick. So again, it's just a review of the 1 through 3 columns. Again, on the bottom of page 66 and the top of 66 are both reviews. Again, if you're doing inventory that has 4 columns, 5 columns, 6 columns, you're not even doing it right, because my book only has 3. It only has 3 on page 65. And there's a reason why that fourth, now you understand why that 4th column is not attached, because we got to look at the ego state of being in that 3rd column. And we got to see ourselves. We got to see where we've been playing God. We got to see where we've been spiritually sick. There's a lot of things that are being revealed to us by doing it this way. Okay. I like to think of people, perhaps they were spiritually sick by not being spiritually awoken or awake. Because I like to think of myself as being spiritually awake, woken, you know? And when I wasn't spiritually awake, I made lots of mistakes because I was not spiritually awake. Okay, we're going to go on to the next page. Though we did not like their symptoms in the way these disturbed us in column 3. Remember, we were disturbed in column 3, hurt, threatened, interfered. The way these disturbed us in column 3, they, like ourselves, were sick too. Person in column 1 was sick too. Just like me, just like I was sick in column 3. I see where I've been playing God, and I start to see that the 2nd column starts to turn into a lie because of my delusional state being in that 3rd column. Now we have a prayer, and like I said before, the only way to get rid of this ego, the ego, if you've been sober for a while and you've done this work before, the ego is cunning, baffling, powerful. The only way for me to fight, to win against the ego in sobriety is by living a spiritual way of life, living this spiritual program. The more I am disciplined to live in a spiritual way of life, the less likely the ego is going to show up in my life. The ego, your ego, needs your body to do its work. Think about it. The ego is like the God. It needs you to do its bidding. You see? That ego is inside you. It needs you to do its work. Just like when we get into well, we already did it in the 3rd step. We were in the 3rd step. We decided to turn our will and our life over to the care and direction to God. All our thinking and our actions, we turned over to God in step 3. And to show that that's what you've done, we do step 4. The actions in step 4 are designed to carry out the decision made in step 3. So the only way I know you do step 3 is by you doing step 4. I used to have resistance in step 4, and that resistance is my ego. My ego loves knocking on my door and screwing everything up. It does. You know, it's just cunning, baffling, powerful. It's waiting for me to be spiritually sick so it can come in there. Okay? So the only way to keep that ego at bay is prayer and meditation. Pause when angry. So it's going to say right here, we ask God, again, it's a prayer, to help us show him the same tolerance. I want you to circle the word tolerance, pity, and I want you to circle the word patience. Tolerance and patience that we would cheerfully give a sick friend. When a person offended, all right, when somebody irritated me, I pause. Before it says pause, it says, when a person offended, we said to ourselves. So when I'm saying to myself, I'm going to pause as I'm thinking to myself, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? The problem is I need that pause. If I do not pause, think about it. Anger has the power to kill. If I don't pause, I'm going to say something, I'm going to do something that I'm going to regret. So I need to stop. When I'm angry like this, I need to pause. God, tap into that spirit. God, do a prayer, because the ego is just sitting right there. If I do a prayer, it's going to push the ego away. God, save me from being angry. This is a sick person. How can I help them? How can I be helpful? I need that prayer. God, save me from being angry. That will be done. The more that I do that prayer, the more I pray and meditate, the more the ego's, wherever it goes into the shadows or wherever it's going to go, it's never fully goes away. There's no way of him entirely getting rid of it, but I can keep it as far away as I can through prayer and meditation. It says we avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. That's a pretty clear-cut deduction. We avoid it at all cost. At all cost. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy the chances of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. God will show us how. If you're tapping into that spiritual way of life, and you live in a spiritual way, and you start to pray and meditate, even though how difficult it is. I know for me, when I used to meditate, I just get a couple of words, and I just write it down, and it just took a while for me to work at it, for it to finally, God will show me how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one in my first column. Because we're talking about who I'm angry at. Each and every one in column 1. It says, referring to the list again. It's the second time it's told us to go back to the list. All right. Putting out of the minds wrongs have done. We resolutely look for our own mistake. So I got to put out of my minds the wrongs other had done. I always think it's easy just to kind of fold. You got 3 columns. You got column 1, 2, and 3, and just fold like column 1 and 2 away, and all you're looking at is column 3. It says right there, I got to put the wrongs others, I got to put out of my mind the wrongs others have done. The only way for me to do that is not look at column 2. I got to get rid of column 2. Now, this is the first time it's telling me I got to put out of the minds wrongs have done. We resolutely look for my own mistakes. I'm going to look for my own mistakes. And it says, where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? It says, though a situation may not be entirely our fault, we disregarded the other person's involvement, even in the 3rd column, because we've already been asked to put the 2nd column aside. Now it's telling us the inventory was ours, not the other man's. Oh, wait, I went too far on that. Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person's involvement already. Now, we already did that earlier with column 2. Now we're doing any type of involvement with that person in column 3. We're eliminating that too, because that's why they're asking us a second time to do that. Where were we to blame? Again, I'm looking for, where am I to blame? Where's my mistakes? The inventory was mine, not the other person's. When we saw our faults, we listed them in column 4. We placed them before us in black and white, admitted our wrongs honestly, and were willing to set these matters straight. Again, your 4th column. I don't have paper here, but 4th column is going to look slightly different. Basically, you're going to do the same thing you did for the 3rd column. 4th column, at the top of the 4th column in this margin, I want you to write realization. So if in this, I just write it right here. Realization. And if you have any type of realization when you're doing this 4th column, that's where you would write it at the top. It could be a spiritual experience. It could be a realization. Sometimes it's, aha, I get it. Sometimes that stuff just happens. That's what you want to write. You want to write about those all the time. Don't forget about those. I know for me, when I get myself in a dark space and I start reading the stuff in the spiritual experiences, it's hard to stay in that dark space. Writing is a big tool. It's old school writing. Who writes anymore? Everybody types and texts, right? Writing, it's old school. Writing on paper. I can't push that enough. Do old school. Reading, writing, studying, applying. This whole thing's about applying. How do I apply this? Right? Okay, so fourth column, realization. I want you to write on the first line, I want you to write self-seeking actions. I'm going to skip 5 lines, and I want you to write selfish attitude. We'll skip 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to write dishonest delusions. That would even be like self-deception too. And skip 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to write afraid. Skip 5 lines after afraid, and I want you to write harms. Again, if you see any other harms, I want you to write it down. Look around the resentment, parents, friends, employers. I shared an example one time where my ex-wife ran outside. I left, we were fighting, and I went outside, and then she went outside I'm not done with you yet. I mean, we've all had those experiences, haven't we? Well, now the neighbors are affected because she's yelling at me and belittling me in front of the neighbors, and I didn't like that, so now I'm yelling back, and now we created a scene. So are the neighbors affected? Have I harmed the neighbors? Because I sure have, because they didn't even know I had Tourette syndrome. They had no clue. Actually, I don't. I only have Tourette syndrome when I'm angry, and they were like, dude, you got Tourette syndrome. Like, they were thinking I had some kind of problem, and I was just angry, you see? But I'm sharing this because there's harm, not just to the ex-wife. There's harm to wherever I go. I seem to cause harm, you know what I mean? So I run away. I go outside. Leave me alone. I go outside, and then she follows me. I learned a long time ago, if the wife goes outside, don't follow her. She goes in another room, don't follow her. Let her just, you know what I mean? But when I do it, she's got to follow me. So I'm using that example because it's true, it's happened. And then the neighbors were affected. And then I have to look at it and go, okay, how did I harm the neighbors? Screaming, yelling, showing them a side I didn't want them to see. That's the side I don't want anyone to see. I want everyone to see the most spiritual, guru, chill, whatever. And I'm human just like anybody else. And just because I got 28 years sobriety, like I told people before, the only thing I've done right in those 28 years is not drink. I've made lots of mistakes, lots and lots of mistakes. But the biggest thing is learning from your mistakes and not making them again, learning from them, using them as a tool to propel you forward. So again, it's going to look like this. I don't know if you can kind of see it. It's going to be realization, self-seeking actions, selfish attitude, dishonest delusion, afraid, and then harms. So this is not something you're going to do. You're not going to do this from top to bottom. You're going to do this from bottom to top. It just works easier. So what I want you to do is I'm going to have you write this on the right above the harms. I want you to write this. It's going to be a long sentence. It's right above harms. I want you to write the above fear drives the dishonest delusion that result in my selfish attitude that are behind my self-seeking actions. All right, does everybody want me to read that one more time? So it's going to go, you're going to go from bottom to top. Now I want you to remember this. Remember how we did the third column and it was sort of hard and we had to kind of, sort of mold the words, try to get the right. It's going to be the same way. Okay. So again, The above fear, that's why I have it written right above harms. The above fear drives a dishonest delusion that result in selfish attitude that are behind the self-seeking action. Again, one more time. The fear drives the dishonest delusion that result in my selfish attitude that are behind my self-seeking actions. Everybody get that? Again, so sometimes this is going to be like the bottom fear. It's afraid. Is going to be like the boss fears. So when we do the third column, when we get into the third column, when we didn't get into that yet with finding the fears yet, but when you find the fears in the third column, okay, this is going to be like, this is not going to be one of those fears that you find in the third column. This is going to be like the boss fear. This is going to be like Mr. Oz behind the curtain. It's going to be that one fear that you just overlooked and never thought that was the boss fear. But in the end, you're going to find that there's going to be one boss fear that is driving everything. Okay? One boss fear is driving it all. Because here's the thing. In resentments, I show the whole world that I am fucking angry at everybody, when the reality is that I'm just afraid little boy inside. Or afraid little girl, or however you want to look at that. But I'm showing the whole world that I'm angry. And this right here is going to show you that the end result is that I'm afraid. Not only that, but it's going to show you in the third column that fear is dominating everything. You're going to get a fear from every single one of those things that you got in that third column. You're going to have 5 or 6 fears for every single resentment. Now, I'm going to remind you of page 62. It says, driven by 100 forms of fear. That's why you're going to get a whole bunch in that third column, and you're going to get a whole bunch in the last column. You should have close to 100. You think about it. You got 4 resentments, and you got 5 in each one. That's 5 fears and 4 resentments. That's what, 20 fears right there? You know, it doesn't take long to get to 100. Driven by 100 forms of fear. Self-delusion. Just a dishonest delusion, right? Dishonest delusion, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. Does that all sound like to you like the ego? Driven by 100 forms of the ego. We can do that too, right? Because the ego is just all, it's just, it's like the silent killer. And that's why we got to keep looking out for that. So anyway, a lot of times I can find my self-seeking actions. So let's think about this. I'm just going to use Mr. Brown's example. And I don't really know, but I'm just going to make stuff up. So, Mr. Brown is really mad. And so I'm going to put my self-seeking actions, right? And I'm going to put self-seeking. Well, first, I'm not sure about the fear yet. So if you're not sure where to start, just start on wherever you know what to start. So a lot of times I might start at the top because I know the action that I took. So I'm going to put self-seeking action. I'm going to put yelled at Mr. Brown at work. All right. See, I'm making things up, but I got to put it towards the resentment. He's a coworker, right? He might get my job. He's paying attention to my wife. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to confront Mr. Brown, right? So what's my self-seeking action? Confronting Mr. Brown? You know what I did in this self-seeking actions? Not only did I confront Mr. Brown, but I told him to stay the fuck away from my wife. You see how that's self-seeking? Sorry about the F word. But you see what I'm saying, though? You see, it's self-seeking actions. I told him to stay away, right? All right. What's the attitude? My attitude, selfish attitude, right? What would be a selfish attitude? I was almost thinking selfish, like nobody should talk to my wife. Isn't that like a selfish attitude, right? Nobody should talk to my wife, or nobody should. Selfish attitude. Yeah, nobody. I'm gonna put nobody. Nobody. Selfish attitude. Selfish attitude. Nobody. I want to say should. I don't like using that word though. Nobody. Yeah, I guess what I was getting at selfish attitude would be like nobody should flirt with my wife. my wife. Okay. Dishonest delusion. You know, there could be a lot of dishonest delusions in here that I can make a whole bunch of stuff up, because what if Mr. Brown made all this shit up in his head and it wasn't real? Because it did say fancied or real. So what if Mr. Brown made all this up in his own head and it was not real? It was fancied. And he took something that Mr. Brown did and completely blew it up, as if he snitched on him and told his wife and his mistress he's going to get the job. You see, sometimes we can make shit up in our own head and it's real. But what if it wasn't? The dishonest delusion is that I believed it. That's my dishonest delusion, is I believed it. I believed like, where I was going with that is like, I believed something that wasn't true. You see where I'm getting a dishonest delusion, right? The dishonest delusion is that nobody should even go near my wife. That's my wife. You see what I'm saying? And then my dishonest delusion is I really believe that. I really believe that nobody talk to my wife. You guys, everybody following me on this so far? Does it mean you want to say something, Sean?
Yeah, please, mate. Yeah.
Jump in.
So, you know, on that this delusion, because it is a delusional thinking, right? And I'm just referring back to my experience, you know, of actually believing stuff, right? So, but I believe that what he's saying is a lie, when really it's the truth, but I know it's a lie. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, for sure. I was almost thinking of it's like when I rub somebody the wrong way, like a coworker, because you think about this, you know, he must have been his friend at some point for him to tell him, you know, if I had a mistress, all right, there's only going to be like, if I did, as you know, obviously I'm not married, but if I did, all right, I wouldn't tell anybody but one or two people. And that's what makes me think he was friends with Mr. Brown. Because you're not going to come out of the blue and go, hey, man, I've been screwing this. I got this mistress and I'm married. You're just not going to, but you will do that with a friend.
So again, is that delusion that he's a bad friend?
Well, that could be that too. Could be that too. You know, yeah, there's lots of, I'm telling you, once you open up the can of worms, it just opens it up, you know, and you're like, well, could be this, could be that. But I like to think that Mr. Brown was his coworker at some point. And then, you know, you could take something as simple as Mr. Brown. Okay, the wife comes on a Friday to pick me up or something. She's waiting in the waiting room. I'm just giving it some kind of an example. And then Mr. Brown's like, oh, hey, hello. You know what I mean? So it's that delusional state that nobody should talk to my wife. You think about it. It's that delusional state that he goes, no, nobody should talk to her. Nobody should flirt with her. Nobody should even go near her like that. Nobody should. Nobody should. That's what it says. You know, I believe that nobody should talk to her. And I honestly believe that. I honestly believe my own lies. My dishonest delusion is nobody should even go near her. That's my wife. That's mine. Like ownership, you know, like ownership, like a car, like a really nice car. No, don't touch it. Don't touch it. You see, the wife could be like a car. You see, but I know I'm kind of making light of the situation, but this is really serious shit, dude. This is really serious. This is either going to make you or break you in recovery. You know, this inventory. I got to make this work because I want to be free. I'm tired of being a prisoner of my own self and not even knowing. You guys share about all these promises and all, man, I want that. You see, I want that. And if you want it bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes. Man, I'm going to tell you something. My experience. Remember I said 167 resentments and I had to write. You know what my sponsor said? He said to me, I'm 2 days sober. Have you ever stayed up all night before? And of course, I'm cocky and my ego's going to say, yes, I did it for like, I think a whole week, maybe two one time with a bunch of other stuff, chemicals to keep me awake, right? And he'd say, good. Because I want you to go home tonight and I want you to write out your step 4 and I want you to have it done tomorrow. And I said, Right. I didn't even say nothing. I just give him a weird look. What are you talking? I got 167 resentments. I got to write out 167 of those third columns, 167 fourth columns, and we haven't even touched fear yet. Okay? And it could be very overwhelming. He just said, just take one at a time. Just take one at a time. I stayed up all night because he told me if I stayed up all night, that there's a possibility that we could share this and I could be free. Even just having that little possibility was enough for me to stay up all night and get all this notebook, 5-subject notebook, full of stuff in here, write it on the paper. That's how important it is to write about it. I'm just sharing my experience. When I shared it, I felt like a great weight lifted off. Like I'd been carrying this backpack around, because I'm a backpacker. I like to go backpacking in the wilderness and disappear for a few days, or go in the Grand Canyon or whatever. But I just felt like, at the end of the day, when you take that pack off, man, it's just so, you're like, ah. And that's what I felt like when I did step 5 with somebody. I just felt great. It was just such a relief, And then the next day, my sponsor says, do you feel a little lighter? Actually, I said, dude, I feel a little lighter, like on my feet. And he said, you're having a spiritual experience. And I'm telling you, if it can happen to a guy like me, it can happen to anybody here. Anybody. And I've seen miracles happen, even with the worst people coming into AA, the worst people with the worst backgrounds, never been free in their life, been locked up, and they have an experience and they completely change to be successful. They're living a spiritual way of life. Don't forget, you start to get irritated. Somebody affects you. Somebody offends you, right? That's what it says in page 60, wherever it is. Yeah, it's on that 67 about that prayer. When a person offended, when somebody does something, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I've been shot with their words, right? I need to pause. Just pause. Say a prayer. God, save me from being angry. This is a sick man. How can I be helpful? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you a clue on how to be helpful. Sometimes it's just shut up. That's the truth. I'm really glad I said that on a video. So that's the truth, man. I just got to shut up and not say nothing, because my first reaction is going to get me in trouble. I'm going to open my mouth and it's just going to be diarrhea or whatever, because I'm angry. I need to pause and stop. The moment I feel angry or irritated, I know it's my ego tapping on my shoulder and go, come on, let me mess it all up. And then I got to go pray and meditate and get rid of them off my shoulder. The only way we can defeat the ego is through prayer and meditation. I cannot stress this enough. How many times we read there is a solution, and what did it say in there? I have 2 alternatives. One is to go on to the bitter end, suffering. And the other one is just to accept spiritual help. And I did it because lack of power was my dilemma. Not only that, but I hadn't even given the spiritual way of life any type of attention at all. And I knew I needed a change. Just trust the process, man. Trust the process. Try to let go of the resistance to change. Man, alcoholics don't like change. They don't. We don't like change. That's why we resist. And we're like, no, I don't want to do this. No. You see, we want to resist change. But man, once I got on the other side of that, I would say, why did you wait? Why did I wait so long? I've been working with Sean a couple years now. Probably more like, I think it's solid 2 years, maybe a little bit more. I want to say maybe 3, but I think it's 2. I can't remember. But it's 2. He could tell you the experiences that he's had. He's a miracle. I remember when he first came and did an inventory with me, Now, I'm only sharing that is because I love seeing people's lives change as the result of them doing the work. It's not about me doing the work. It's about you. You do the work, your life changes, not mine. My life changes when I work with you, whether you stay sober or not. My life still changes. That's just the fact, because I'm working with others. But your life changes when you first do the inventory and get this inventory done, your life will change. I will guarantee it. I will guarantee it. You're going to have an experience and you're going to say, why did I wait so long? Why did I wait so long to do this? What was I afraid of? I was so afraid to put paper to pen. I was so afraid of what I was going to find out because, and the reality is I didn't like me. And I was afraid that if I was going to expose my truth to you, you ain't going to like me either. The reality was when I did inventory, I didn't find anything like that. I found things I didn't like, but I didn't find what I thought I was going to find. I didn't find what I thought I was going to find. I didn't. Instead, I found other stuff. Instead, I found other stuff that I didn't even have. And not only that, but I found a way of life that I had been living that wasn't the right way from that ego state. When I did that inventory and I realized I had been living in the state of being for years in recovery, and still making mistakes. Still making mistakes. That's why I say I'm not perfect. It's progress, not perfection. Just because I got 28 years, all that means is I got 28 years. It's progress, not perfection. I make mistakes. I'm human. Don't put me on a pedestal because I'm going to fail you every single time. I'm human. I'm not a god. I'm human just like anybody else. And I could spew out diarrhea of the mouth, and then I got to go make amends, and I got to do, but that's what we got to do, right? And that's the life that I live today, is try to live a life, try to live this program as best that I can. I'm sorry we didn't really get much past resentments, but I think that kind of helped those two guys get a little bit further. You know, I didn't want to get into fears yet because we didn't really get into the fears bracketed into the third column. I didn't want to go too far yet. I did want to record it just because I think that I really touch upon different points each time I do this. I sort of, you know, I don't really know where it's going to go. I just sort of kind of wing it, if that makes sense, because I've been doing this for so long. But I think that last time I recorded it, I touched upon different points than what I touched upon today. And I know today I really wanted to touch more upon like being a human. You know, being a human and having feelings and having that feeling of anger, and how the anger in column 2 has the power to kill. Right? We've all been that way. We've all felt that way. Man, I don't want nothing to do with any of that. Get me farther away. I want peace, serenity. But the only way I'm going to get that is I got to go through this. I got to get through this on the other side. I got to get through this inventory so I can get on the other side of it so I can be free. How free do you want to be? This is yours. This is your inventory, not mine. I'm just here. I just hope, my greatest hope of doing this and recording this and posting it, and that way it's there forever and you can all, is that you guys can listen to this again and again. And I hope you guys will get more out of this the next time you listen to it. You know, because that's how I am with the book. Every time I go through this book, I get something else more. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm 28 years sober. And why do I keep having these spiritual experiences all the time? I'm sitting here scratching my head, questioning, why am I having a spiritual experience? Right? Why should I even be questioning it? Just embrace it. Forget about questioning. That's what my sponsor said. Forget about, just go and embrace it and enjoy it. Forget about why it came and where it came from and trying to overthink it all. Man, just enjoy it. You know? But I'm telling you, the only way I can be in a place where I can enjoy a spiritual experience and really, really get myself immersed in it is to be free from my past. It's the only way. You are not free. You are not free. If it's going to hold you down like a ball and chain, man, get rid of that ball and chain and be free once and for all. Be free from the bondage of self. That's all that is. That's all that inventory is. All of it is the bondage of self. Because you're asking in that third step prayer, God, relieve me of this bondage of self that I'm about to inventory. Set me free from the bondage of self. Do you even know what it's like? It's like this. You are a prisoner within yourself, and you're the only one with the key. Yet you complain about being locked up. But you're the only one with the key. I can't let you out. Only you can let you out. There is no jail warden. If I can let you out, I would have let you out. I'd let everybody out and be free from themselves, right? But the fact is that it has nothing to do with me. You have the key. You see? I hope I didn't confuse anybody. But the only way to be free from self is I got to be willing to be free from self. If I'm not willing to be free from self, I'm always going to be a prisoner. And I do probably, how many people in AA even know that they're within the bondage of self? That they're all, man, so many people don't even know it. Once you become aware of your thinking and your actions and how you treat everybody, once you become aware of that, it's going to change. So the one thing I wanted to mention was about patience and tolerance. Remember we circled it in the prayer? Patience and tolerance. That's where you start. That's the starting point. What do you mean by that? Okay, well, first off, can you learn to be patient with other people and pause and pause? Because the only way I'm going to be patient is if I pause. It's the only way. I got to stop. And that's where I'm going to practice. I'm going to pause and I'm going to practice patience before I even open my mouth. Because if I open my mouth, I might have to go back and make amends. That's why I got to practice pause and shut up and shut my mouth, right? We're only talking about this. We're only talking about resentments. When I'm irritated, I need to stop. I need to pause and not make it even worse by opening my mouth. My mouth is my biggest problem. It's not my hands. It's what comes out of here. And I got to learn to control this, right? Especially when I'm angry. When I'm angry, oh man, I want to be that complainer, the grouch, right? And I want to complain about everything. Everyone's going to listen to me. And you're going to be so sick of hearing it that I'm so mad at Sean, right? You see, you're going to be so sick of hearing it that after like a year of me complaining, I'm going to forget why I was mad at Sean. And I just wasted everybody's time. You see, remember how it says in there, squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? I'm wasting all my time thinking about resentment when I could be thinking about love or thinking about helping another new guy. Instead, I'm consumed by this resentment. You see how it's squandering the hours that might have been worthwhile? Because I bet it could have been busy working with somebody else. Instead, I'm consumed by this resentment and I'm going to retaliate and I got all this plan in my, I got an escape plan, all right, but my escape plan doesn't work. The real escape plan involves a higher power and prayer and meditation. My escape plan is something different. I'm going there blazing glory. You know what I mean? No, that's my old way of thinking. And so I hope that I was real today. I hope I was real. I hope all of you really identified with feelings, anger on the inside, what it's like to be really angry and things that really piss you off, because that's what we were talking about. You know, having anger has the power to actually kill. I hope you see where you've been playing God, and that you can see that the second column turns into some sort of, you know, a lie, because you're coming from a delusional state. You can't even see the difference between the true and the false. You can't even see your own truth, you know, and it just turns that second column into a complete lie. And then it's easier for me coming from this standpoint to just forgive the people in column one. Just like that. And then they just disappear. The ones that stay are the ones that are really, ex-wife, right? Or ex-husband. Those are the ones that are going to stay. And those are the ones that I'm going to use that prayer on 60. God, save me from it. I'm going to do that every day when I wake up. God, save me from being angry from the ex-wife, right? I'm going to do that every day when I wake up until it just goes away and it's just gone. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for being here and being a part of this. I hope everyone didn't mind me taking a step back and a step forward and just kind of doing a little bit more easier. I hope that helped people if you didn't quite get it the first time, or I hope this helped you grasp it a little bit more. You know, maybe some point I'll do like a 4-step workshop and go a little bit more deeper, but to me, what I talked about today was absolutely life-changing for me. Absolutely life-changing. Man, it life-changing, and I just want you all to experience the same thing that I experienced, and then carry that message to the next person and have them experience it. This is something you don't want to miss. This is what it says in chapter, right? You don't want to miss this experience. Lives are about to change because you're in the right place at the right time and helping others. This is what this is about, getting out of self. But I can't help everybody. I can't transmit something I don't have yet. And to me, that starts with the inventory and writing out a lot. Yep. My hand, I don't think I could barely move my hand after writing 167. I had probably 600 pages or something of my inventory. Yeah, my hands were all, I had to do it all that night because he said it'd be done tomorrow. I do want to tell you that my sponsor at the time was one of those people that you would just listen to him. He had like this authority when he talks. So when he said, "You'll have it done tomorrow," there was no not having it done. I was afraid not to have it done. Honestly, I was afraid for my first time in my life. I was afraid if I didn't do all the writing that, he wasn't going to like me. And so I did it because I was a people pleaser and I wanted him to like me because he was like, I don't know what he had, 8, 9, 10 years. He was like a god, you know what I mean? And I was brand new and I just wanted him to like me. So I did what he told me to do. I mean, that's just the truth, though. That's that character defect that came in, people pleasing, that actually helped me in that sense, right? Because I did the work. I did what I had to do. I was willing to go any length, whatever that means to you, but that's what it meant to me. Have you ever stayed up all night? Yup. Then you'll stay up all night and do it. Okay. So I've done it. The flip side, I've sponsored people in different countries and I've stayed up all night so they can get it because that's the lengths that I'm willing to go. If I'm willing to sacrifice sleep, how much sleep did I sacrifice before drinking? Right? Those are, I'll easily sacrifice sleep to help another alcoholic. Easily. Any day of the week. Because that's what helps me get out of here and get out of myself. I'm, you know, this helps me to get out of my own head and help me get right. All right. Well, I'm going to end this meeting here. Anyway, thank everyone for being here and being a part of this meeting, being part of this workshop. And let's just take one moment before we end this. Let's take about 20 seconds and think about the still sick and suffering alcoholic. And I'm going to put a spin on this that you know in the fellowship. A sick and suffering alcoholic that you know in whatever fellowship you go to. You know who that person is. You know someone sick and suffering. I want you to think about this. When Ebby was about to leave the Oxford group and go to Bill, what do you think was said to him? What do you think was said to him when he was about to leave from Cedric and Graves, Cedric, whatever their names were? What do you think those three guys said to him? They said, Ebby, you got to go find somebody to work with. Think of somebody. And he said, I know the right guy. You see? And that's what I'm asking you to do right now. Think of somebody. Think of somebody suffering. Someone that hasn't been through this process, that needs the experience. It's not somebody in your family. It's somebody you know in the program. Whatever program you go to, whatever fellowship, you know someone that is suffering, and you're the one that can help them because if you already have a connection with them, whatever that connection is. So let's take a moment. And I want you to think of somebody you know in the fellowship that's suffering. And if you don't know anybody, ask God to reveal somebody to you. I'm going to tell you in just that little bit of time, I actually thought of a bunch of people in AA, and I was like, oh, I'm getting overwhelmed. Anyway, so I'd like to end it. I always prefer the Serenity Prayer over the Lord's Prayer. And the reason why is because it's about me knowing the difference, to accept the things I cannot change. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, which would be other people, right? Courage to change the things I can. Wouldn't that be like walking through my fear? Having courage to change the thing I can and walking through my fear and get on the other side. Having courage to take inventory. Courage to change the things I can, which is myself. And the wisdom to know the difference. Now, I often get confused. I'm trying to change somebody or they're trying to change me. You see, I can get, I like the Serenity Prayer. It makes it really just clear cut. I'm going to end it with amen. So I'm going to end this recording right now. This is just going to be like a